On this episode of That Kingsville Podcast, we talk Municipal Election Kingsville 2022. We talk Integrity Commissioner Report. And Kevin, you were talking about someplace and...
Oh, what was that address again? It's on Main Street.
Was it? I don't know. Now, stay tuned.
The 100 block.
All that and more on this episode of That Kingsville Podcast. That Kingsville Podcast is brought to you by Kingsville Brewery. Did you know you can now find Kingsville Brewery beers in 180 plus LCBOs and 72 plus grocery stores across Ontario? Did you guys know?
Road trip.
Distribution network. Check out where you can find a Kingsville beer near you at the link below, kingsvillebrewery.com/find us.
I'm hitting the Marmora LCBO tomorrow.
Where is that? Marmora.
Beautiful. It's picturesque.
I have no idea what it is.
I'll show.
Okay, good. We'll
you know
find
what?
it.
We'll grab a cool Kingsville brew and we'll jump into the quarry.
The beer garden is still open for some live music. This weekend they will have Ryan Yorker from 1 to 5 on Sunday. So make sure you go get some beer garden time in while the weather is holding. Thank you, Kingsville Brewery, for sponsoring That Kingsville Podcast. Welcome to That Kingsville Podcast. I'm your host, Dave Hunt. With me again and again and again, Kevin Black.
Word.
Stephen Ianson.
Good day.
Gentlemen, things have changed in town. I went away for a couple of weeks and I come back to a whole new world.
A whole new world.
Blacktop.
It's
Great
exciting and new.
Blacktop everywhere.
Yeah.
We got Division.
Yeah.
Looks good.
Yeah, Jasperson.
Jasperson looks great.
Like we got it's revitalization.
Hey, can I tell you? So I was talking to some of the members of the road crew on Jasperson.
Yeah.
I was trying to pull my weight a little bit because I was hoping that, I could like, hey, how about you just like see the dividing line of where you're stopping the asphalt? Could you just back that up like 4 feet? Like just so it covers like my whole driveway, not half my driveway.
Yeah, just
Yeah, so there's not like a transition zone in the middle of my driveway because forever now there's going to be a slight bump.
Oh, did they not back it up?
No.
Oh.
And so it's like on an angle, and I asked him like, hey, do you like, is it a big issue? Like, could you just like scrape another couple feet back? And he looks at me dead in the eye and says, we are prescribed the set amount of feet we are allowed to in the contract. And this is exactly the number of feet that we are allowed, no more, no less.
Fair enough.
All business.
And I said, did you measure it? And,
Oh, wow.
and
Wow. And then he took his road sign and yeah.
and I measured it twice, sir. Thank you. Like, all right. Well, you know what?
Kevin had a steamroller parked on his front lawn later that day. Sinking.
But that said, I do respect that very much. It's nice to know that, my tax dollars went to fund exactly the amount of pavement that it was supposed to fund. I was hoping, someone else's tax dollars might fund a little bit more in front of my driveway, but
Good business
it wasn't
practice,
meant
too.
to be.
Did they paint the lines today?
No, not yet.
Well, they did paint Division. And if we recall from a previous episode, we were discussing bike lanes on Division North from, what would that be, Hillview? Was it Hillview? No, it was
Pulford.
Pulford.
Pulford. Well, between Pulford and Hillview.
Pulford and Hillview.
Sam Shell.
Yeah, Sam Shell all the way up to Palmer. And there was a motion to council about bike lanes and reallotment and whatnot. And now we've actually seen what the compromise is, because that was what it was decided was. It would be a compromise because the lane widths to allow a full bike lane, there wasn't enough space in order to do so. So now we see what we actually have, and it looks pretty narrow.
Would you call it a bike lane?
I wouldn't. I don't know.
I would maybe call it like a bike side road.
I just call it
bike.
Yeah. Well, how about a lane marker? Not even a. You're riding through every storm drain, culvert.
A nice
collector.
white line to keep the Teslas on the road.
Those self-driving cars are everywhere. Yeah, no, Gary, you're the resident cyclist. What do you think about this compromise?
I don't see that they could have done anything else, to be honest. But it's literally not as wide as the handlebars on my bike.
Yeah, which that kind of does present a bit of a challenge.
Wait, you probably could have put a multi-use path on the side. Like they did on Jasperson, right?
Yeah, if they had a tore up all the sidewalk and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to do things right.
Well, division further north, past the old medical center, past Palmer, is a multi-use path.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe that's round 2, right? Maybe we do that. Would you ride on the multi-use path though, as a cyclist?
Yeah, if it's not being heavily used by walkers or whatever. When I see people on the path, I go on the road.
Yeah. No, share the road, as the signage says, all over town.
And a multi-use path gets a real cycle of activity.
Yeah.
That's the first one.
For sure does.
We got a great episode tonight, guys.
Shifting gears.
Stay tuned.
Ooh.
Things are happening.
You've got a handle on these jokes.
Oh, man.
It's like a chain.
Is it like a chain, yeah.
That rings a bell.
Yeah.
All
right, hold
this
on.
is big now, Dave.
We need to put the brakes on. This is too much.
Guys, we're past the election deadline for cutoff for candidacy. It's happening.
And we're not on it?
No, we're not.
Imagine that. To all the people who frequently said, "Oh, you must be running." Surprise, like we said the entire time, we are not.
So, without exaggerating, in the last couple of weeks before candidacy closed, how many people approached you, as I'll tell you how many approached me about running, even though I'd made it clear.
Well, I was working in Leamington, so maybe
nobody.
one.
You were just
I avoided it.
You were camouflaged.
I got like 5 phone calls, people asking me to run for mayor. And and I had at least 6 or 7 Facebook messages asking if I was going to run for council. Like, oh, you're running for council. Like, how come your name's not on the list yet? Like, if you need me, I'll sign the sheet for you. Like, I don't have a sheet.
No.
Like, this isn't a thing.
It's not a thing. No.
Not a thing.
I had 3. I had 3, 2 in person and 1 message.
Yeah.
Of, Dave, you need to run. Like, no, I'm not going to run. We've made that very clear.
I was getting phone calls for mayor, and there are some fantastic candidates that I can't wait to vote for all of.
Yes, and with that being said, I hereby certify that during the period commencing May 2, 22, and completed on nomination day, August 19, 22, the following persons filed all necessary papers, declarations, fees, and as clerk, I am satisfied with such persons are qualified and that their nominations satisfy the requirements of the Municipal Elections Act 1996. I have, therefore, certified such candidates for the office which follows their respective name.
So, and just because this did come up on the last election, so without written affidavit, this is the list that will be on the ballot.
Correct. Yeah, this is
you have to go out of your way now to not
be.
run.
Yeah, to not be. So, and all right. So, candidate and running for mayor in alphabetical order: Laura Lucier, Dennis Rogers, and Tamara Stomp.
Tamara.
Tamara. I apologize. Tamara Stomp. Deputy mayor: Kimberly DeYoung, Gord Queen, Samson Zad. And for councillor: Scott Collier, Michael Del Ciencio, Willie Fittler, Tony Gaffin, Michael Glass, Debbie Jarvis-Shossi, Sherry Lowry, Les McDonald, Thomas Neufeld, Larry Patterson, Tim Seach, Gideon Spivak, Brandon Stanley, Barry Wilson. And school board trustee, English Public, which I believe this is what we're handling here in Kingsville for the school board trustees. That's the only school board trustee that, anyway.
This is just where they signed.
Correct. Where they submitted. Yes.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
So school board trustee, English Public, Julia Burgess, Sherry Ducedry, and David Adam Keller. Dated this day, the 22nd day of August, 2022, Municipal Clerk, Paula Parker.
Now, I do believe...
We should mention, though, because, we should mention just the candidates for the English Catholic School Board.
Correct.
So...
I don't have them.
Oh, Mary DeMena and Derek. And I knew how to pronounce this 4 years ago, and I believe it's Thaychuk. But,
the Chuck. Yeah. Anyway.
Okay, and then there's one candidate for the French Catholic, which is Didier Marotte. So I'm assuming that would be an acclamation, and nobody on the list for the French public.
Dun, dun, dun. Well, there we go. There is the candidate. So a lot of speculation early on, gentlemen. We speculated there was going to be 17 plus. We got 20 for just the council, not including the school board trustees.
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of posturing over the last couple of days. If anyone was following along, at home,
It's the social wars have begun.
holy cow!
Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot. And you knew it was coming.
Mm-hmm.
Every single little issue, big issue, it has had its Facebook following, and the election's the biggest issue. So it's gonna get the biggest following.
Oh,
Here's my concern, and I don't want our election to go down this route, because in the last few years we've seen. I remember when politics was like, okay, this is what I can do for you, and this is what I want to do, and this is my platform, and gradually over the last few years it's come to, oh well, so and so said this, and guess what so and so did 5 years ago, and all this garbage. I don't care what anybody's done in their past. I really don't, unless it's criminal, right?
Yeah.
No, no,
fair enough.
but right, like the slightest things, it doesn't matter. I want to know what your platform is for Kingsville. I don't want you going out and trying to undermine other people. I don't want people going out trying to say, oh, well, blah, blah, blah. So-and-so said this, so-and-so did. No. Keep it to the issues.
Yeah, let's not sling
Give
mud.
me a reason to vote for you, not a reason to not vote for somebody else.
Yeah, don't sling mud.
Yeah. I don't think for mayor is really the only race I think that's sort of your traditional, like what you're talking about. Like where there would be that. It's difficult to do that for council. There's 14 candidates. So it's right, 14?
Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
Like,
you're trying to beat
like
out
you can't
9.
you can't talk bad about, 13 other people. You're just not like it's just
Well, no, you
not.
only have to talk bad about 9 because
Yeah.
4 of them can beat you. But it's the
That's
other 9
true.
you've got. It's like when
That's
you're running
true.
for Malayan, you don't have to be the fastest person. You just have to be faster than one person.
Exactly.
For council, like I agree with you. Like I want to know what their platform is, but really I only care personally for mayor. I want to know what the mayor's platform is going to be, because the mayor has an ability to steer the agenda. Council, I'm happy if they just know what they're allowed to do and what they can't do.
Yeah, because we only have 3 incumbents running for councillor again. So by default, we've got 2 new seats being filled.
Well, and I know we're going to talk about this a little bit later in the episode, but like I think it's important for a council candidate that's going to say, I'm going to stop all development in such and such area. I'm going to limit this development and that development. I want a understanding of how the person's going to do that, since you really can't.
Yeah. And that's just it. Yeah. Don't stand there and grandstand and say, right.
Yeah.
Say,
Like
I would like this to change. Sorry, Kevin.
No, please.
No, I would like this to change because,
Yes.
right. And back it up with something. Don't just say, yeah, like you said, there's too much development. There's too much traffic in town and I'm going to end it.
I'm going to end all traffic.
Yeah.
How are you going to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where
Okay.
are those cars going to go?
Yeah.
Or I'm going to stop all odor from all greenhouses.
Yeah.
Like, well, unfortunately, that's a Ministry of the Environment regulation, not a municipal regulation.
And some of it's bleed in from the neighboring community.
Right.
That is without jurisdiction by the town of Kingsville.
So I'm just happy if they can stand up and say, you know what? I know how to make decisions. I know what decisions I can make. And I understand when there are decisions that might not be popular, I'm willing to make the difficult decision. I want to know those people.
For the greater good. Obviously.
For the greater
Yeah,
good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like sometimes your hands are tied as a council candidate. I want to know the people that are willing to stand, and I've said this before. I want to know who's willing to stand in front of a room of people and make a decision that's going to make them angry.
Yeah, and stand behind it.
And stand behind it.
Yep.
Because knowing someone that's willing to take that abuse for the greater good of Kingsville is someone I want to be behind.
Yeah, you may not agree with the situation or the decision.
Probably don't.
Right, but the fact of the matter is that person, that individual is of devotion, right?
Well, and the other side of it is, if someone understands that they can't make that decision, then they're more apt to find ways to be able to,
Yeah.
and that will actually stand up.
Yeah.
Like instead of And again, the development issue is an easy one for this, but there are lots of them. But instead of saying, well, we're going to say no development, say, I'm going to work with the county to make changes to the official plan.
Correct. To limit the development.
To limit the amount of development.
Ideal.
That's how you make those changes, right? Yeah. It's not, you can't build a condo. It's, you can't build a building over 3 feet according to our property standards bylaw.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you make those decisions, right? And I want to know the councillors that are going to be willing to stand in front of people and say those kind of things. That's who I'm going to vote for.
Yeah, I'm curious to see as time goes on and more information from each of the candidates come out, what the issues that they feel are predominant in Kingsville, what has to be addressed, right?
Yeah.
That's what, because of the last couple of years and the social media onslaught of wickedness. What's the cream of these are the things that really are important in Kingsville, and these are the things that I need to address as a candidate, right? What are those? Is because we're going to get traffic, right? That's going to be one, and development's going to be another one.
Affordable housing is always a major topic.
Seniors programs, usually one.
Pool. They're going to bring up a pool.
God,
it's coming.
I hope the pool doesn't come back.
No, that's been watered down. Let's skip away from that.
Honestly, I'm not getting in the deep end with that one. That's brutal.
Somebody's going to dive into the topic. I'm doing it.
No.
I'm doing it.
Yeah, rather than just skim the surface, they're going to go head first.
Man, stay in your lane.
It's called the old Nerf toss, folks. Yeah, but aside from that, then if you've got somebody that's going to be progressive and
hate the pool so much,
that's terrible.
God, I hate that topic. I hate it.
It comes up every election cycle. Every election cycle. A pool. We need a community center with activities and a pool.
Well, and I would like to sit here and say, just for anybody listening, please just don't touch it. Just leave it.
Yeah.
No, don't go there because it's polarizing. But at the same time, it's not going to happen.
It's not feasible.
And I shouldn't sit on that in a sense of like declare that. But you're right. I mean, you talk to other municipalities who operate pools, and I think if they could get out of it,
they most certainly would.
Yeah.
The operating costs and the infrastructure costs and the maintenance costs and the liability costs.
And don't get me wrong, I understand the people who would love to have a pool in Kingsville. I understand it. My kids swim, and either prior to or after, I see people going for aquafit. And wouldn't aquafit be a great program to have in Kingsville? Mm-hmm. Absolutely, it would. Mm-hmm. But the number of it's like I'm gonna use this reference because maybe the curling club's gonna come up again. And maybe. I'm gonna can I go slightly off topic with this one?
Please.
But this is kind of how I look at the pool perspective too. So a few years ago, I had a discussion with a gentleman who was heavily involved in curling, and we kind of went back and forth. And I said, "What's it going to cost to put up a curling club?" And I said, $200,000, and he kind of avoided it. $200,000, and finally he said yes. I said, "Okay, so let's say the council puts that on the tax bill. $200,000 for how many people? 200. We've got a community of 20,000, and 200 people might use that facility." I said, "If you want a curling club, you're better off saying to council, okay, can we get maybe $100,000 capital from you guys spread over 10 years, let's say.
Yeah.
And we will find a way to generate fundraising and sponsorship to cover the remaining cost." That makes more sense. And that way it's not solely on the backs of 19,800 people who aren't going to use the curling facility. The pool, I think, would get a little bit more use than 200 people, but the cost is way more.
Millions.
Yeah, substantial.
Millions.
First of all, the capital cost. And secondly, the operational cost is, as we've discussed almost ad nauseum. You're paying for
insurance,
the facility, but then you also have to person that pool with lifeguards and facility staff and everything else. And
janitorial.
You've got to look at it for the big picture. It's not, it's fun to have. It's great to have locally rather than having to drive 15, 20 minutes to Leamington or Essex. Sure. Mm-hmm. But big picture, it really is not a...
Well, and I would say too, it made more sense before there was a bus transportation that would take seniors that can't get to, because that was always the argument. Seniors need to be able to do aquafit classes. Well, seniors can now get to the Shirk. You go to the arena, jump on the bus. Like it's an extra 10 minutes out of 20 minutes total trip time. And you have to wait for the bus. So let's say
it's got a schedule. You can go
online. Yeah.
And you can stand in the arena lobby where it's either warm or cool, depending on the season.
6 o'clock in the morning is the first bus at Kingsville Arena.
So there are options now to be able to get people to those. So I don't think it makes any sense anymore.
And if you want to look at it in comparison to a larger municipality or town or city that have pools, they aren't within a 15-minute radius of you all the time, right? Pools are generally in a city center or in an outlying area where there was development around it. So in London, theoretically, you could drive 15 minutes to get to a community pool, or Hamilton or Toronto for that matter. So for us in Kingsville to have one with 2 other pools, both 15-minute drive and a 20-minute drive away, I would relate that to the same proximity of being in a major city.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's great that the idea, because of what it can provide to a community, fantastic. Unfortunately, it doesn't fit within our taxation base, and it will drown us in debt for a. I know I'm not usually the guy that does puns,
that was good.
Fine.
That was good.
That was a good one.
But yeah, but it always comes up. It always comes up. Just like waterfront development always comes up.
I remember campaigning last year and someone mentioned it when I was at their door. Like, well, what do you think about the pool? And I just looked at them quizzically. Like, what do I think about the pool? I think it's stupid. Yeah. Why would you want a pool and pay for it?
Like in Kingsville, I think there are an abundance of personal home pools, right? So really the likelihood of somebody who's got a home pool, if you really want to do a little jazz or aquafit or whatever in a pool, you just ask, your neighbor Sam, like, hey Sam, can I jump in?
Maybe for 4 or 5 months of the year. It's the other 7 that people will make an argument for. But no, I'm just
I know.
Playing devil's advocate to your point. However, like
the Leamington one is down the road.
Yeah.
It's down the road.
And Essex is just a little bit further. So if their programming schedule is better to your personal schedule, then drive 5 more minutes. Or that bus does stop in Essex too.
Yeah. And Cottam.
What else is going to come up? Yeah,
Cottam.
Cottam will come up.
Yeah, just in general.
Cottam will come up. Ruthven will come up.
Looking at the list, and I'm not sure where everyone lives. Do we have anyone other than Larry from the Cottam area?
No, I don't know where everybody lives.
Yeah, I don't know.
From the candidates that I know, we've got some, right? But not all.
Not all what?
Are within town limits. So
what about Ruthven?
Again,
Ruthvenites?
I think there's a couple.
I would assume so, right?
I'm sure they're well dispersed. About.
Yeah, but a matter of, I think that they would be cognizant enough to make sure that they're inclusive of the outlying, except for Cottam, right? Nobody really cares about Cottam.
Nobody cares about Cottam.
No, Cottam's as important. So I'm sure that through there.
Is that what we're going to go with today?
Cottam is important.
Yeah.
The development is impressive.
Yeah, they got new neighborhoods. Right?
I actually love Cottam. It's honestly, Cottam reminds me of the town I grew up in. But I think that because it does, I feel like I'm okay, disparaging it because I'll tell you, I grew up in a town called Omemee, and it's a hole. It's literally in a hole, but also a hole.
And it's got 5 vowels.
Whereas Cottam is a whole lot of fun.
Oh,
there we go. That's the. I got a clap.
Yeah.
They're so used to horsing around.
Yes, they are.
Horse show's coming up again. Hey,
ooh,
hey. So it's Harrow Fair.
Third week, yes, Labor Day weekend.
Sorry, not transitioning yet. We'll get there.
Yeah,
but yeah.
But
so
you did.
So major show announcement. There's lots of topic or gossip or talk. I'll get there. Eventually, it'll come out of my mouth. Right. Talk about meet the candidates events, and there's speculation that things are happening and whatnot. Major show announcement. We will be hosting a all candidates meet the candidates event. We are finalizing our venue and date. We are targeting middle of September, but all the information around the event will be distributed on social media prior to, and we're hoping that we will have We will be doing it in partnership with the town of Kingsville. Again, the venue will be finalized shortly, and that information will be distributed to all candidates, and all candidates will be welcome. The format will be similar to when Steve and I did it last election cycle, where there will be an opportunity for the candidates to interface with the public. They will be given an equal time allotment to discuss their platform. It will be a fixed time. Each candidate will have the same amount of time, and unfortunately, no question and answer and no debate period. So that's our format. That's equal, nonpartisan. All candidates will be invited, whether or not they attend. That's their choice, but that's what That Kingsville Podcast is doing.
I miss the Q&A and debate.
I do too. I wish I could.
We can't. No, we just don't have time. There's too many candidates.
20. Right, and we would have to have separate events for deputy mayor, mayor, and councilors.
Yeah, I mean, if we were to break it down, let's say we did this over the course of 3 hours, we may be able to do something. I know you're shaking your head right now, but doors open at 6:30. There's a meet and greet for 15 minutes. 7:15, each candidate gets 3 minutes to introduce themselves, present their platform. That takes an hour. Let's give them an hour and 15, so at 8:30. So then if we provide... The questions cannot come from the audience.
No.
But we provide, let's say, 2 topics for them to speak 2 minutes on.
It can't be every candidate. It could only be mayors. You couldn't do every candidate.
That's a lot. Do mayors and deputy mayors maybe?
I feel like this is an off-the-show conversation.
Well,
to hash this out, but
format to be determined.
Sure.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But the idea, though,
the only thing is,
love questions. I love questions. I love them so much.
You're a newsman.
Yeah.
It's always the best part. It's the unrehearsed part, right? I mean, it's rehearsed, but it should be rehearsed anyways, but usually it's...
No, but the only reason I'm throwing this out there is because what we've done in the past is provided them the intro, and then there's like a little bit of questions in the middle, and then they get a minute to kind of sum up their... And that's why we've always had a moderator.
Yeah.
So there may be opportunities here. We did it with 23 candidates.
You and I came up with that format, I want to say it was the 2006 election.
I don't know. The first one I did was 2003, and I was jumping in both feet, thinking, okay, how am I going to do this? And I remember I was just going on all these segues tonight, but it was at the Lions Hall, and a couple of great gentlemen. Ralph Mason was one, and he was awesome in the setup, and got it done. And that was my learning experience. So then every year, you kind of tweak it.
Yeah.
And then Kevin arrived in the area, and we kind of.
One year I did 10 of them because we used to do the provincial and federal ones, and because it was for Blackburn, we would do all 4 local ridings.
You got paid. You got paid for.
Got paid for those ones, but some people will forget. There's actually 4 ridings. So there's 4 ridings in Essex County, not 3, 4. There's 4 ridings in Essex County, and so we would do the Chatham, Kent, Leamington one. We do the Essex. We do the Windsor West and Windsor Tecumseh, and so we did all 4. For provincial, we did all. That was the year Sandra Pupatello was running, and Bruce Crozier, Dwight Duncan, and then this 2006, and we did that. And there was municipal, federal, and provincial election all that year. It was mayhem. Yeah, I hated them by the time they won,
probably. Well, so off air, we will discuss format, and that will be distributed to all the candidates as we finalize our plans. Unfortunately.
If we do questions, can we yell them at the candidates uncomfortably loudly?
What
do you think about development?
I have a bullhorn.
Yes.
I have a very loud bullhorn.
And that's a no.
And and I remember the first time that we did it, the moderator they used to have a bell, and then the candidates got mad because the bell would throw them off, and then they'd lose. So then we started using a light system, but I think we bring in the air horn,
okay, so
30 seconds.
Fine, we'll discuss format later date.
After.
But the reason we're doing this too is that if people say, well, I want to know how they feel about this. So the whole idea is afterwards, there's a whole other half hour to an hour for you to go around to the candidates and ask your question, provide their literature, or simply get their email or phone number, all of which is actually posted on the town website. And you can reach out to them personally to find out. So this is more just a broad scale, one shop stop that will also air on YouTube.
Yeah. Are we going to do it live, Gary?
Depends. Yeah, we'll see what kind of connection we can get. It may be edited for, content, get rid of my ugly face. Maybe. I don't know.
Do we need to edit?
I'll put on a jacket.
It's going to be in public, so I'm sure people aren't going to be swearing. If they are, that'll be interesting.
Well, all right.
Any
Council news.
Any F-bombs?
Council news.
At the all candidates?
Just to highlight a council news, there was the Integrity Commissioner submitted annual report. And basically, for the most part, the report outlined some incidents and some things where there was some guidance and whatnot. But I'm just going to read just a paragraph. And we need to kind of just discuss. Since first submitting my report to council, a new matter was brought to my attention that causes concern, partly raised to the event and partly because of how it relates to the relationship between staff and council. And I requested an opportunity to add this paragraph. By the way, this is the Integrity Commissioner. That's not me. This is the words of Mary Ellen Bench. I apologize. And I requested the opportunity to add this paragraph. At the mayor's annual golf tournament, an incident occurred where 2 senior staff were verbally abused for an oversight for which they apologized and corrected. Comments were also made the following day on social media and after the event that were disrespectful and factually incorrect. I raised this incident specifically because I am concerned about the impact on the staff directly involved and also because the comments made to me by others who witnessed the incident about the impact it had on them. These individuals described the impact of witnessing the behavior as quote unquote unnerving and bringing back memories of abuse suffered by them, brackets, at the hands of other persons. Another described it as, quote, breaking the trust between staff and council. I understand that apologies have been made, but the consequences of that evening will not fade away without considerable work on the part of council and staff. I raise this because this is not the first such event brought to my attention, and while I responded in a similar fashion in the past, I did not do so in a way that addressed the need for respect publicly. It is now apparent to me that it needs to be said publicly. Respect, like communication, needs the participation of all parties, and it is not an obligation placed on elected officials alone. Trust, once lost, is challenging to recover. Just checked some social media shortly thereafter. The mayor's golf tournament was held and a couple of...
It was actually the night that we
recorded
our last.
We recorded last,
podcast.
Yeah. So after
Paula Parker was on.
Exactly. After we got out of there, there was a lot of alerts on my phone and whatnot, and Councillor Laura Lucier posted on her Facebook, I attended the mayor's golf tournament today with my husband. I was asked repeatedly and forcefully to participate. I do believe this is also not currently on her Facebook. So it may have been removed. I don't know. However, this was that night.
It's a screenshot.
It's a screenshot. I was asked repeatedly and forcefully to participate as we are currently without mayor and attendance was low. I stepped up. I was the only Kingsville councillor in attendance. The CAO was on my team. We spent hours together. When he got up to make his remarks, he recognized they would make councillors from Amherstburg who attended. They stood to cheers. I was not mentioned. The deputy mayor, who was introduced inaccurately as the acting mayor, who had not spent his time or money golfing, said his remarks, and I was not mentioned. Again, I think she means then, prizes started to be drawn. I went to the podium and asked to introduce myself, but was refused. I was angry and left. In my way out, town staff who had prepared the remarks said it was an oversight. And in all capitals, women are not an oversight. So I somehow think that these two incidents are connected. I'm not clear if there's an investigation pending or whatnot, but there were a few people around town that had talked to me about it in passing. So I'm assuming that these two things are related somehow.
It would seem so.
Mm-hmm. So
I had heard some rumors around town too. I think it's, but like, the thing is, you never want to talk about rumors.
No.
Right?
Nope.
So,
no,
you know,
no, these two things were publicly distributed. So I'm not making any outlandish claims or whatnot, but I don't know if there is a pending investigation or whatnot, but I hope that those issues that the integrity commissioner can be resolved, because no one deserves any kind of abuse related to verbal abuse or whatnot. So if that is the incident that occurred, I hope that there are amends that are downstream.
The one issue I will take with the integrity commissioner's report is the statement that there have been repeated issues in the past. But this is the one apparently that needs to become public.
I also had.
There should not be a standard of whenever employees are potentially being talked to in a manner that's not proper, and the integrity commissioner is required, and is clearly, whether you want to call it an investigation or not, if the integrity commissioner is looking into an incident that happened. Sure, it might not be a quote-unquote investigation, but they're investigating a matter that's taken place.
Sure.
And I think there is a duty to report out.
Earlier in the report, correct. I think it should be a more frequent thing rather than just an annual report. But earlier in the report, she reviews what she has responded to and handled over the course of her duration. So between April 2021, I should say, and ending June 30th, 22, she's responded to the following matters: requests for advice from members of council, 9. Requests for advice from members of the public, 2. Complaints received and determined not within my jurisdiction, 2. Complaints dismissed without investigation, 2. Complaints investigated informally, 1 councillor complaint and 1 agency board committee complaint. Complaint about an agency board or committee member, 2. Council attendance and staff meeting, 1. Council educational session, virtual, 1. Policies reviewed, 2. And then her total fees, excluding HST, to the integrity commissioner, $6,237.50. So again, not much more to talk about beyond that. But again, I hope that these lessons that we've learned and the individuals involved can move forward. So,
can we talk about my absolute favorite topic?
The tree in the corner of your lot that got cut.
I hate that tree now so much. Oh, I would like to talk about the Blue Jays, how they just took 3 of 4 from the Yanks.
Can we also talk about how Manchester United beat Liverpool today too?
Nobody knows
this
what
is
that
fun.
is.
Anyway,
have you heard of an address in town? It's an odd number. 183 Main Street.
Have
you heard of this one?
No. Can you recap for me?
I would
real
love
quick?
to. It's actually the home of or the location of a home that was built by one of the Jaspersons for their daughter to live in.
Bond.
Was it Bond?
I don't know. Gary, is it Bond Jasperson? Is Bond Jasperson?
Bond. So Bond Jasperson paid for it to have this. He commissioned this home back in the late 1800s. Yeah, in some time in fashion for his daughter, and then she lived there, and it's a beautiful home, and thank goodness that the developer agreed to save it. After discussions, after public pressure, a year ago, the developer said, "You know what? I agree. I'm going to redo my development plan,
site plan, yes."
And
we'll ringing a bell, and
we'll save 183 Main Street. And the residents won. They won. They saved for since 2019. They were working to save that home, house. And thank goodness, in September of 2021, they won that fight. Unfortunately, for some reason at the time, council decided that, you know what? Yes, we understand, developer, that you have now changed your development plan to save the home that we were concerned about, And we also realize that you have downsized the number of units to match specifically with the number of units allotted for your lot size according to our official plan. However, the majority of us are still going to say no. No. We're going to say, you know what? Nah. This one, we don't like the cut of your jib. We just really, we're not enjoying this presentation enough. We feel like there should have been more. And, you know, and really what it led to is just a bunch of buffoons over the next year constantly talking about how council made a wrong decision. It was going to, you know, lead to losing at a tribunal hearing.
Yes.
And I would just like to say that I'm going to take my victory lap right now.
Oh, they did.
Because surprise, surprise, the decision was released. And exactly as we had predicted.
In record time, as I understand, as well as an article reported.
From what I understand.
2 weeks.
Yes.
2 weeks for the determination from the tribunal, which is unheard of.
And actually, and we did make a mistake. We did say that the hearing lasted 5 days. And I want to thank for being corrected that it didn't last 5 days. It only took the town 2 days to not present their case properly. And luckily, though, because it only took 2 days, we did save a little bit of money. Some legal fees. But the town lost. So now the development's going to go ahead just as it was planned back in September.
Within the property owner and developer's rights.
Yeah. And now the taxpayers paid thousands of dollars. We're going to find out how much, hopefully with a fairly detailed accounting of the amount of money spent on not just legal fees, because that's what everyone assumes is going to be our cost. There are legal fees. And as soon as someone says, oh, well, you know, there are 3 lawyers on staff now at the town. Well, their costs still are associated because they're town employees spending time on a file that they otherwise should not have been spending time on. And so those costs, the actual outside legal fees, you have the planning experts that had to be hired. You have the planning department that needed to somehow create a case for how the town should not allow the development to go forward. And all of it, council knew was very, very difficult to deny a year ago.
Wasn't there additional meetings that were held and council?
There was hearings. There was heritage review meetings. This should have ended the moment that they said that home was going to be saved.
Correct.
We discussed. Should have ended last fall,
as we discussed.
And the thing is, at no time have we ever said that we supported that development.
No.
I personally don't really like it.
I don't
like seeing the condos. I don't like seeing them.
I don't care.
I know that they should probably be there for residential density reasons and lack of sprawl. It's probably good. I don't really like looking at them, but it's not a decision that we're allowed to make.
Nope.
The council was not permitted to make that decision. And as the tribunal explained to them, this fell in line with their official plan. This fell in line with their zoning bylaw. This fell in line with provincial property standards. This is exactly the type of development that's being encouraged now.
Yeah.
I actually saw a comment talking about on Facebook on one of the posts talking about how developments like these are bad for the environment because it's paving and putting concrete over top of good land. And
well, yeah, you're laughing, but I've made that point too. Just as far as like paving over,
but
we're not turning it into a Walmart.
No, I realize that, but like I'm just again,
but
I'm kind of
it's gonna house well,
22 families.
Yeah, 22
Well, hey,
families.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying. My point was simply just on the the land part of it. I get that point.
Yeah, but I would argue
Yeah,
that
but-
the new development on Jasperson that has all those semis is far more harmful to the environment than that.
I'm not
condo
disagreeing with
That
that
took up
either.
a whole farm field.
Yeah, I agree.
This is just a lie.
We're all
Oh,
arguing the same thing, boys. Let's get it back in line.
But anyway,
Look it. What it boils down to is That Kingsville Podcast said that this was going to happen in September of 2021.
Yeah.
We were right. Other people were wrong. We are buffoons. It is right that we are buffoons. Unfortunately, in this instance, the buffoons ended up taking the victory lap, and I'm happy to see that a proper decision in line with the laws that Kingsville currently has in place ended up happening, because that's what's supposed to happen.
Yep.
Other people aren't supposed to dictate limits on the development on other people's property. That's the job of town councils and the job of the provincial government. And you know what? Good for Thomas Neufeld and for Deputy Mayor Gord Queen for voting against the motion for this to go forward. It'll be interesting to see what this decision ends up costing.
Well, we'll report
find
it
out.
as soon as we as soon as we have that information, we'll report it. Because everything else that I've read so far in the Windsor Star and other such media outlets has not touched on that. Actually, the Windsor Star article that I read was from the point of view from the developer and the property owner. So,
Well, and by the sounds of, I read the same article. By the sounds of it, there's probably no development going on there for a while.
No. But it's a matter of now they're entitled to do what they're legally allowed to. So,
well, the way housing demand is right now.
correct. And, now the field that is to the east of that property, now the question becomes, now what happens there? And there's speculation that it's a subdivision as well. But now is that going to be an issue with what type of housing developments are built there? And are we opening ourselves up to another round of, I don't necessarily like this because it's in my backyard? Because unfortunately, it seems that it was a little bit of that type of behavior, or the speculation that outside involvement can have impact if they just don't like something.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of things that happen in towns with progress that people don't like, right? Let's go back to the early 80s when at the four corners of Kingsville, when there was the fire and they built that big brick apartment building, right? That was, nobody likes that thing, right? So that tells me that in order to make sure that we're continuing to evolve the way development is, that council has to have limitations on what it is that they determine is important for development going forward. And this is what they've decided that is allowable in town now. And if we continue on this path, then this is the way we're going to go. Not to say that we're going to have big brick buildings in the middle of town, but
We kind of are.
we kind of are.
Like, it's already, there's already one condo up in the middle of town. There's two
more
more.
to go.
Yeah.
Two more to go.
There's one, I like the one behind the medical center is, I think, on the 4th story right now.
Yeah.
So it's like, this stuff is happening,
Mhm.
and I love a small town as much as the next person. I really don't like it. It kind of sucks, but it has to happen. There's only so much housing, and for progress to move forward, this is it.
Steve, you got a furrowed brow.
Yeah, I'm thinking back to a comment from a member of council, because we were discussing development a few years ago, not even a couple of years ago. And this individual simply said that we need to build condos because we're losing residents to Leamington. And it made me pause for a moment. I'm thinking, that's not the right mentality. If another town has condos and we're losing some residents because they have condos, that's okay. It doesn't mean that we have to change what we like and we've kind of set our standards at just to keep people here. If people want to live here, they'll find a way to live here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, you need to provide a mixture of housing. Like, that's, I would argue that the developments that the town of Kingsville put in, like the subdivision behind Zayre's, the Gulfview subdivision, the speed that they were able to get those subdivisions in probably aided to the drop in the number of middle income families that live in Leamington now, because a lot of people fled to Kingsville.
Yeah,
right. No, I guess it was the mentality of the way, the thinking of why we need the condos.
Yeah, I do find that a strange comment. But at the like, you need to provide a mixture of housing. It's a weird way to say it, but like,
I guess I just look at it though too in a sense of like, we've heard the last few years affordable housing, yet are we doing enough along that lines? Have we done enough?
Yeah,
like
that's a misnomer too. Affordable housing and what everyone really is talking about, and then using the word affordable housing with that type of floor plan and that type of a structure, they're two different things, like completely two different things.
No, I understand that. But I'm making the case that, we're building these condos because people are leaving town, yet we're not taking care of our own in a way.
But what if sorry to cut you off, Dave, but like, we're not there yet, but like your parents, your mom, like when time comes to downsize, they want to stay in town. They don't want to move to Leamington. They should have that choice.
Yeah, but the problem is the housing that was designed for that, the real estate value pushed it far beyond affordability. So that's free market, and that's economic creep, right? It's not that there aren't houses like that floor plan available in town. It's the fact that the affordability moved on. So how do you keep
I guess people have been outpriced, and then we're putting in condos that again are continually outpricing people who have lived here for however many years, but simply cannot afford to anymore.
Well,
so no matter if I build 1,000 square foot apartment, if it's $600,000, it's not affordable housing. It's a $600,000 1,000 square foot apartment.
And I guess the argument could be made, and I'm going to kind of play devil's advocate to myself here, is simply, if you build what you consider affordable housing and you're charging, I don't know what the going rent would be, but let's just start at
$2,400 a month.
Yeah. Okay, I was going to say just start at 500 or 1,000. Hypothetically. No. I'm not saying it would be.
It's at least $2,000.
If you want to make it affordable, let's say you started at $1,000.
Sure,
you can.
Well,
will you just placate me for argument's sake, please?
Okay.
Let's say you're starting at 1,000. But the problem is if you've got someone coming in again and says, "Oh no, I'll pay $2,000," and all of a sudden the owner of the building is like, "What? People are willing to pay? Yeah, I'll check it out." And that's where all these people are forced out.
Yep.
And nothing has been done really to kind of help that.
Yeah, but how do you help that?
Well, if only. Only there was.
That's a whole other discussion, I guess, because then you've got incentives and grants, and you've got to find a builder willing to keep it at that anyway. That's a whole other debate.
Yeah,
we can't. That would be like a 4-hour episode. I'm sorry.
And you know what? That's one of my favorite election topics, because no one has a clue. They said we need more affordable housing, and that's generally where the comment ends, because no one understands. I ran for council. I didn't understand it. I still don't understand it.
It is such a multifaceted issue, because you have profitability based on an investment that a private or a business owns. And then if you put limitations on that individual, like they can't build certain things and make less money on it, but the neighboring property doesn't have those limitations and they're identical, then why does one suffer the same, right? Like there's so many issues. And unfortunately, global economics and housing prices, the fluctuation of what that is and interest rates and whatnot weigh so much heavier on it in a recessionary period that it makes everything worse. It makes everything worse because everyone is under so much more pressure, and now again it'll probably be another highlighted topic on the campaign trail, but no one has an answer.
Well, the issue at its complete simplest form is supply and demand. And if there's more units available, and then you can't charge as much rent.
Yeah, well,
because then there's options, right? So
that's a good point.
So then you become, okay, well then build a whole bunch of of apartment buildings, because then you'll drop rental rates.
But we don't want that in a small town.
But we don't want that in a small town. So like it's the issue that can't solve itself.
Yeah, we don't want a whole bunch of semis, because then we're just a town full of semis and blah blah blah. And then now when developers build houses, they're 2,100 square feet or more because they're maximizing the profitability on the lot sizes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've tried to fight that battle when it came to Blue Jay Crescent and the proposal to go from all single family homes to
two stories,
all semis, unless it backed onto a single family home.
Yeah, it is a very complex, very, very complex issue. And the municipality and some very forward-thinking individuals have to tackle it bit by bit. And it takes some strategy.
Strategy?
Yeah,
strategy.
I'm sure. Not sure about that.
Listen, if I say it in a British accent, does it make it right?
No.
Strategy.
Sounds worse.
Yeah, it sounds way worse.
It's like
Was that
Nana.
British? Is that British?
It's fine. Listen, but that's what it's going to take. It's some strategic planning.
Is that from the north?
Hey, leave us alone.
and a municipality or some faction, in order to do something and go out on a limb and propose a methodology in order to address this with conditions that are palatable.
Yeah.
And nobody can focus on it. There's been a crap ton of things happen in the last 5 years, and it's really thrown everybody for a loop. But now, as we're kind of coming back around, and things, which were a prevalent issue over the last 2, don't seem to be anymore, and now we can get back into, the mud and the dirt of how do we fix this big problem. And I hope some of our elected officials can work on it.
Well, the municipality is going to have an opportunity to purchase some fairly prime real estate, which may be able to help with this issue.
If only there was a guy that was sitting at the table that had a plan about that maybe discussed it a few times. I don't know.
Were you on a committee for it?
I was on a committee. Steve, I was on a committee. Did you know?
I had no idea.
You had no idea? I was on a committee.
That's interesting.
Absolutely. And as I understand...
Just one, though, right?
God, I love these guys.
On Tuesdays. 2 on Thursdays.
Yeah. Can't make
6 throughout the entire
Just
week.
call me Committee Dave.
We do.
Yeah.
Oh! All right, well...
Steve has a shirt.
Yes. Hey, have you guys
I'm with Committee Dave.
Did you know Dave was on a committee?
That's what it says on the back. If you read the label.
Kevin, I'm excited to find out what comes out of
a gazillion dollars.
Our investigation.
It's gonna be a gazillion
to see what happens with 183. Because I know that's been our biggest issue.
It's gonna be about 75 million snow cones.
Because with regards to what the investment was in that pursuit, that windless pursuit of terminating that development, what did it cost us?
It would have funded the operating costs of a pool for 17 days.
Oh, we could have had Dickie D for free for a month. Everyone in town gets a free
jingle jangle.
Gets a free rocket pop from. Is there still Dickie D's? Is that a thing? Did anyone see it around?
I didn't see it this year.
Not this year.
Oh.
Last year, I think I did. Or 2 years. Well, no, not.
I think it was going around. I don't know if since the pandemic.
I don't.
It's weird though. Those 2 years.
A gazillion years.
Yeah.
I don't know. That
2 years
used
have
to
been
be
lost.
that was the signal summer. Now that we're coming out of it and we don't hear the little gring, 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 gring. Who used to run the Dickie D in town?
Rick Dalton.
Rick Dalton. Yeah, because he had the house on
And
Cole.
Stonehenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. He did a good job.
Oh, I remember.
I remember a friend of mine at the time. He was a Dickie D driver for a while, and he actually lived down the street from Mr. Dalton. And I happened to be with him one time as he was going to work, and in the garage there's like 4 bikes, and he had to like get all his ice cream, load him up,
and be like you're like a movie star. Like, people just come running at you.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, that'd be the best job.
Yeah, it was great.
Get a little workout in.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Reminiscing.
You'd have to eat the profits eventually. Just so hot. Just
Thanks everyone for putting up with our buffoonery yet again. I look forward to being able to communicate with everyone all the details about That Kingsville Podcast in partnership with the town of Kingsville, with participation for the town of Kingsville, of the Meet Candidates event, which we will again put out a release on social media about the details of that very soon. I want to thank Gary Glass for production, Quantum Sound Productions for all your television. What else do you do? You do movies? You do movies too. Music, audio, whatever. You're good. You're jack of all trades.
Announcing at Firefest.
Oh my gosh!
The horn.
Oh, I'm not in town for Firefest.
I was talking to someone at the town, like, hey, do you think you guys can help us out with announcing the trucks that go by for Firefest? I'm like, well,
did they not see us at the Christmas parade?
Not sure if you're aware, but fire trucks like to honk their horns.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that we can talk over that.
Go back to the video for the Christmas parade and watch you and me trying to get words in edgewise from one fire truck.
I know, and if you listen, like I was already screaming at people across the street during the entire parade, so you would think that it would have been okay.
I'm going to bring my bullhorn.
But they knew. The kids knew. They say, he's about to open his mouth.
They did.
Now.
Well, hey, boys, again, a lot of information. Election season's here. Exciting. So
Let the fun begin.
Let the fun begin.
This one's going to be epic.
Yeah, here come the campaign signs.
We're going to be talking about this for 4 solid years.
Thank you for joining us on That Kingsville Podcast. See you next time.